If you think like that, then I don't know what to say. It will be a long time before you have enough expertise to discuss sword techniques with me. Hearing these words, he felt very familiar because he had repeated them to Thien Pham before. Who would have thought that today he would have the opportunity to hear them again in such difficult circumstances? I have endured countless hardships to try to become the next sect leader. It's truly cruel of you. Tran Dai, hurry up and give him the playing cards, he said, maintaining his promise despite his wickedness. His body was now exhausted from the loss of blood. Thien Pham, remember this. This isn't over yet. After saying this, he fainted because he couldn't bear it anymore. With just one match, Thien Pham had won over the 4 subordinates of the junior sect leader of the Devil's Sect. Reluctantly, they handed over their playing cards, waiting for their turn. I'll pay off this debt today, he said. Hearing these words made him feel uncomfortable. I've told you, don't think everything ends here. Tran Dai still felt unsatisfied. He had been beaten by Thien Pham for talking too much and causing trouble, as had happened before. Although painful, he still managed to speak up. You villain! We did what we agreed upon. Why did you act like this? I never promised that everything would end just because we got the playing cards. I learned something interesting from Thien Hu Thien, and that is to eliminate all potential threats completely. You cruel person acted against someone who lost. Why didn't you finish your sentence? Before he could finish, he was beaten again. This time seems to be very strong, so my body is lying down without moving. If you do it personally, it's okay, but if someone else touches me, it will only make things worse. It's too much to bully someone like this. Capture all the remaining ones and break their legs for me, the Lord ordered. The whole group rushed to torture the remaining ones standing there. Everyone was frightened by the protagonist's actions. So, he successfully regained his reputation and playing cards to consolidate everything for the third assessment. A playing card was returned to the Cat Iron team. What is this? Why did you give us the playing card? Anyway, carrying all these playing cards on us doesn't do anything for us, he said before leaving immediately without waiting for their questions. He had no reason to give them the playing cards in this jumble law. Indeed, the difference is there. This is why the Lord ignores our Devil's Sect. If that's the case, then helping Thien Pham, the young lord, is the right thing to do. Suddenly, Cat Iron's group rushed in, paying homage to the protagonist. We will be loyal to that Kong Tu for the rest of our lives. Thank you for your kindness, and please accept us. Indeed, his relaxed and kind nature had made him win the affection of martial artists. Everything was going according to his plan. It must be satisfying, right, Mr. King? Meanwhile, at the Devil's Sect's Weiquan, Bok Trong Min was very busy. He secretly learned the protagonist for the promise made years ago. Every time like this, the doctor was comfortable enough to write a prescription and rush to treat the martial artist when. It's incomprehensible to see patients being happy. The remaining person wondered if Han had recovered. Trong Min pointed quickly to the bed inside. Stop talking and come here to stop the bleeding for Thien Hu Thien, he said. With just a quick glance, he was no longer worried. I respect you a lot. I'm willing to serve you for life, Han said, looking at Ha Lam Min's body. He was sure this was the divine blood technique, and his body had been quite damaged. Upon closer inspection, the Lord checked the wounds carefully, then continued to transfer his energy into the body. Gradually, the blood vessels swelled and disappeared. Ha Lam Min's dangerous eyes opened wide, and he gasped for air like someone drowning. It seems you've regained consciousness, haven't you? Recite the scriptures and return to your usual self. Why am I here? We were clearly fighting with Thien Pham. But let's not talk about it anymore. I'm the one who should be asking you, you brat. How did you know about the divine blood technique? Ha Lam Min stuttered upon hearing the question. The gaze of the sect leader has become very mysterious. The martial artist had to rack his brain to find a suitable reason. He started to feel frustrated with the sect leader's actions. What are you staring at? I don't understand, he said, feeling puzzled. The sect leader began to feel discouraged by this behavior. He used internal energy to control Ha Lam Min's body without touching him, causing him to cry out as if he was being hit. Why are you doing this? What happened? But Lai Ho Min still didn't answer. He continued to control his internal energy, pulling the man closer. Now he was suspended in midair, unable to move. He screamed, hoping someone would pass by and rescue him. But it seemed that outside was still quiet. Your breath has been blocked. Even if you do anything, no one can hear you. Lai Ho Min said calmly. Ha Lam Min, you're from the Trung Tu Mon sect, the Tijvu Kiem Tom. It's a sect with little contact with the outside world. That's what's written in the reports about you until now. It turns out the sect has leader investigate your background thoroughly. Do you think staying silent can get your sect out of suspicion? A 17-year-old martial artist like you can't practice a forbidden technique banned for decades. Do you think staying silent can clear your sect's name? Do you want your Tijvu Kiem Tong to face the same fate as the Deep Mon? Just as it threatens, the sect leader used force to pressure it. Ha Lam Min groaned in pain as his leg twisted in his chest, causing him to spit out blood. Do you think the reputation of your secret technique can be taken lightly, or do you really think I don't know anything? The Tijvu Kiem Tom isn't just a hidden card of the Kiem Ma Tom. It's a sect under the control of the Am Tong Nai Kiem, Lai Ho Min said, causing the man to realize he was about to be exposed. Suddenly, he bit his tongue and committed suicide, blood gushing from his mouth. The sect leader was shocked by his audacity. Ha Lam Min, wake up! I never expected him to harm himself like this, and still managed to sever all his veins, he said, feeling helpless. No matter how much internal energy I use, I can't save him. I thought it was over, but it seems I was wrong. It's really hard to control these guys. This has probably taken up a lot of my time, so I'm not happy about it. Consider this the last thing I can do to make that sect perish. But what about Ha Lam Min? Why is he so easily denying his crimes? At the Tatam dormitory, chaos ensued, with many fighting and pushing each other. The reason was that without teams, the martial artist wanted to join An Ho's team. He had worked hard to silence them all and line up orderly. If you want to see the sect leader, line up, he shouted. They fell silent and followed his instructions. Indeed, I think he's a talent in situations like this. But now that I think about it, they must have heard the rumors. It's just happening too fast. The news of the sect leader defeating the leader and taking Thien Hu Thien's hand so quickly. There must be some equal strategy to the sect leaders now. Perhaps only the celestial mystery of the Huyen Ma Tom remains. Therefore, it's not a coincidence that so many martial artists are gathered here. As they each lined up, they hesitantly introduced themselves, hoping Thien Pham would open his arms wide to accept them. At this point, he didn't know how to handle it anymore. If he listened to all of them, it would take forever, perhaps from morning until night. I sincerely thank everyone for gathering here to join, but before that, I have something to say. I'm not just looking for team members for this assessment because I need to find comrades who can become my subordinates and create a new Thien Ma Then sect. This is a path full of thorns and difficulties, so if you don't share the same goal, I ask you to decline. The sect leader became more thoughtful over time. Before, the one who said we would change our sect's foundation was 6 great sects. Instead of showing hostility towards them, he knew how to conceal and prioritize Thien Ma Then sect. However, one thing cannot be denied, that is, the majority of the martial artists here have some kind of relationship with the Lup Dad Tong sect, whether it's direct or indirect. After hearing Thien Pham's sincere words, some of them have already declined to join. Their main purpose was just to pass the 3rd assessment. It's a pity, but I can't blame them. Time keeps slipping away until late night, yet Thien Pham still manages to maintain his health to stay with those who remain. Not many perhaps, but likely more than a few after hearing the candid words of Thien Kong Tu. Although my strength may be somewhat lacking, I am eager to accompany you on the desired path. This is the creed of all martial artists, just like the protagonist. Then, a voice from nowhere echoed with hidden implications, suggesting a desire to meet only the protagonist. Can the young master spare a little time to talk to me? Can you, Wong kid, allow that? It seems he knows something. He looks quickly at the garment with the number 408, unclear of its history, just knowing the name Van Q. The pseudo-Hu Dan hurriedly conveyed the message to the master. Regardless of how he would react, he must acknowledge Van Q. Why must I do this? It's obvious the disciples have acquired much useful information. This one is the grandson of the 9 elders, a member of the 12 elders, the fundamental positions of the celestial demonic religion, with the head still being the religious leader followed by the 12 elders and those who are closer to him, always protecting him, including the 3 chief guardians, the 9th elder coming from a prestigious sect, named Ma Long, who has made significant contributions to the demonic sect. Hence, his descendants are considered among the most important candidates for the position of deputy sect leader. Van Q took the initiative to clarify further. Is it true, young master, that you have 6 outstanding playing cards, and one of them belongs to me? The 6 great sects have been in continuous contact with me. As a descendant of the Ma Lam elder, I have always politely declined. But this is the 3rd time Thien Hu Thien has come. However, he still maintains a neutral attitude, not wanting to be involved in any conflict. Therefore, before that, the other person used force and took Van Q's card. Not only that, but he also broke his leg and arm. Bai Kai felt it wasn't too greedy to always want talented individuals in hand. So I planned to seek revenge once my body recovered, but no sect accepted due to the injuries on my body. However, it's not definite. There are also cases where they accept. But the Heaven's Arcane Snake quickly expelled Van Q after just an hour of joining. He is truly vicious. Fortunately, the master cut off his hand. I was planning to ignore Phase 3 to focus on recovering my health, when I received news that the 7th young master had cut off his hand. To be honest, I don't know whether to be happy or sad about this. Therefore, young master, please take responsibility for me even though I know the situation is very bad. But why do you conclude that I must take responsibility? Van Q then voluntarily yielded. Forgive me for being too sad. I spoke a bit heavily. Don't underestimate me just because my legs and arms are broken. Please reconsider your judgment, young master. If you say so, then I will refuse. Van Q continued to explain in various ways, but Thien Pham no longer paid attention. Right people run over to defend him, induce the master to reconsider once more. If you miss such a talent, you may regret it later. All successors to the sect leader want talented individuals. So why give up so easily? If a martial artist of the sect leader level measles on broken legs, it is enough to become the subordinate of the future leader. If everyone has their own story, is it fair to those martial artists we rejected simply because they are outstanding? If that's the case, young master, can you give me 3 days, or even just 2 days? Perhaps you want to join my group so badly that you're willing to do this. To make sure, he immediately requested Nano to analyze the face to see if there's anything fishy. The system thoroughly checked but found nothing. It couldn't analyze Van Q's facial features as they were covered by artificial family members, unable to analyze the subject's facial features. From a brief listen, Thien Pham knew right away that this was someone using a mask to hide their identity. Van Q knew he was being observed but remained confident because even the legal guardian failed to recognize him. So Thien Pham was about to reveal his true identity, but Van Q cried out to divert attention from that secret matter. Other members are showing curiosity because of her strange attitude. She whispered, "What the young master intended to say earlier will only be revealed when there are 2 of us." The protagonist reluctantly agreed to accept her temporarily. Friends happily rushed out to support his friend, and other members also actively welcomed her. No one seemed uncomfortable. On the contrary, everyone was happy to have a new member join. Looking at the group's direction, the protagonist had many thoughts. With the increasing number of members, he would probably have to divide the groups further for easier management. Currently, there were 26 new members, totaling 53. 6 groups would be evenly divided, including skilled, average, and relatively capable members. The first group will be led by Ko Vuong Nhat. The second, slightly weaker group led by Bok Kai Ho Duong Ho, a woman, in charge of the third group and the management of the girls. Next was the fourth group led by Jai Hu Dan. Kat Ian Toi, the former group of Bok Kai, would also be allowed to oversee the fifth group. Therefore, the protagonist holds the most power in the Devil's Sect. After selection and voting, he and the fake boy found a corner to talk. She said she was pretending to be her younger brother, twin, before he was born. Their father died, and their mother died later due to the shock. When we were born, my brother was born with congenital defects. Our grandfather didn't dare to reveal the truth to the public because of this shock. You are also fortunate to have a martial arts talent, but even a hidden needle will eventually be exposed. The 6 great sects want to put Ma Lam Elder under their wings to create a seamless relationship with the sect. Sometimes they also send marriage proposals to Thien Pham, as they know that if the world finds out about the handicapped man, everyone will want to marry him. They can then take over Ma Lam Elder without any heirs. Van Kuyen had to sacrifice her life as a girl to disguise herself as a boy to avoid the Six Great Sects. She also used her real name to avoid suspicion. If anyone finds out, it won't affect her brother. The protagonist seemed sympathetic because both of them were orphans. Now that the young master knows the reason, please keep your promise. I agree, but her voice seems to change. If she deliberately made her voice husky, her throat would break. Since it's normal, my throat is more comfortable. If you deliberately make your voice hoarse, your throat will break. Now Van Kuyen seems to forget something. Now is the time. I apply the medicine on my face every night. If I don't, this mask will fall off. Thien Pham, curious, remained silent, his gaze very focused. Gradually, the petite, fair face emerged from the mask, and the protagonist stood still, mesmerized, brushing his hair comfortably due to his broken arm. I find it difficult to apply the medicine myself. Just as he was about to speak, the woman looked straight at the master. This is the first time since coming here that he has seen such a beautiful person. Luckily, today I met her. Miss Van Kuyen took the initiative to hand the mask to the master. Her small hand had applied all the glue to the surface of the mask. As she finished, a sunny smile appeared before Thien Pham's eyes, making his heart race faster than ever before. Thank you for revealing this secret. I am not harmed. As you can see, I am still not fully recovered, so training is very difficult. Will the young master come to the training room tonight? Thien Pham then directed the new members to their dormitories. From today onwards, I will become a member of your group, so I will move my belongings there soon. After finishing speaking, Van Kuyen bid farewell and left. The protagonist was still bewildered, not understanding what had happened. Then he reshaped the story as if he was about to live with a woman. Meanwhile, Gayat Muk had fully regained his strength and was now engaged in combat with martial artist 321, Ham Bin Guyan. His main purpose was perhaps to seize the playing card, which was the only ticket to the third examination after several rounds. The young master of Puk Ma sect had gained the upper hand, and his opponent was already beyond endurance. Finally, Muk Nguyet had returned to the competition for the position of junior sect leader. It seemed that his strength had increased significantly. However, signs of fatigue were still evident, as he had just recovered from his injuries. Ta Huan was now there to attend to his master for the next 10 days at the Standard Martial Arts Inn. The standards for martial artists had risen, with over 30 layers of inner energy cultivation. However, Thien Pham was still at a basic level due to rushing, having just begun his cultivation. Despite urging his juniors to leave, Muk Nguyet still seemed to have many thoughts. Clearly, his master was urgently trying to catch up with the strength of the 7th junior master. Shortly after, Van Kuyen also finished packing and moved in with the new members. Thien Pham, along with a few others, returned. His expression seemed a bit shy, being in close quarters with a girl for the first time. In his mind, he was trying to find a way to prevent anyone from discovering his true identity. Having just finished training, he became more relaxed, freely moving around the room. The main protagonist truly had no way to discipline his junior, and even after that, the others followed suit without any concern. Turning to Van Kuyen, she was also unaffected, having experienced much before. Thien Pham then went to bath, his mind contemplating the situation of sharing a room with a girl. The next day, the main protagonist returned to his leadership role officially, reporting the results. There were 17 playing cards in total, distributed among 16 groups, as one leader possessed 2 cards. Out of 206 martial artists, 15 were still without a leader, requiring them to find a group within the remaining 21 days. Van Kuyen and Bok Kai were handling separate groups, both under the supervision of the main protagonist. They were struggling to find members, and once they did, they hoped the main protagonist could train them for a few sessions. Thien Pham, despite being tired, started teaching the remaining members. Van Kuyen, though injured, still participated in the theoretical lessons. The main protagonist was a bit tense, but enthusiastic as it was his first time teaching. The others were impressed by his precise and efficient movements. Observing this, Van Kuyen couldn't believe that despite being chained for 5 days, he hadn't forgotten his knowledge. It was difficult to master such skills to such an extent. After demonstrating a few basic moves, the main protagonist involves each person individually. They were all amazed by the effectiveness of his teaching. Van Kuyen observed, hardly believing that even after being chained for 5 days, He hadn't forgotten his teachings. No matter how talented in martial arts, it was difficult to become so proficient. After a few basic moves, the main protagonist declared, "That's enough for today. You all understand now. From now on, I'll teach each of you individually. Prepare your weapons and leave here." Indeed, everyone was very excited to be personally guided by the main protagonist. They all eagerly wanted to be the first to receive instruction from him. However, it seemed that the main protagonist misunderstood the intention of the leader. While Thien Pham wanted to teach each person individually, it wasn't necessarily one by one. His idea was that everyone would work together and he would personally correct everyone at once. It was quite difficult to understand his intentions, and nobody seemed to grasp it clearly. Thien Pham exclaimed, "It's so hard to understand. No one seems to get it." And all 17 martial artists prepared to execute the That Ma sword Van Late. While this method could check the uniformity of their swordsmanship, adjusting their postures simultaneously seemed nearly impossible. Should I observe and assist someone? Everyone was hesitant, so the main protagonist reassured them, "Just try it once, it's okay." First, he urged the members of Loi Kiem to quickly deploy their practical observation beads to enhance the analysis of the postures of the 17 individuals. Then, Thien Pham's eyes flickered as he saw various lines and marks indicating different information about the standard martial artist's postures. The That Ma sword began with the initial posture, and everyone repeated the movements while continuously shifting. Van Q, sitting aside, noticed that most of their postures were disorderly. Thien Pham continued to use his tool to get a clearer view of each movement and action, whether correct or incorrect, which he identified easily. Van Q was surprised to see that the main protagonist's observations were so accurate, contrary to what she expected. His eyes were not simple at all. They were extremely sharp. Thien Pham proceeded to demonstrate a few more rounds, and it seemed to have a positive effect. He silently observed every detail and noted down many things that needed correction. He knew he had to remember them to make adjustments later. The postures became so perfect that they were incomparable to before. Indeed, the main protagonist was extraordinary. Thien Pham firmly believes that with this training approach, it will only take 7 days to perfect. However, in reality, everyone faces difficulties in mastering the final and most complex technique of the That Ma Kiem. They had only 5 days left to participate, which was quite late, but fortunately, they had talent, so it only took them 5 days to catch up. 10 days later, the contest between Bok Kai and Ko Vuong Hat had concluded. The leaders of the first team laughed heartily as they had won the bet. How could you teach them all in 1 day? It was nothing special, just a few hits to make them different, and they became proficient immediately. Bok Kai and Ho Chong Ho, despite lacking enough members, were lucky to have one individual with the same potential as the team leaders. That was Tai Thatch Kim, with the ID number 708. She also brought along another person, Vu Tin. "If you convince me with your strength, I will be loyal to you for life," she said, and the outcome was obvious. Thien Pham used exactly one technique, and both novice masters entered the realm of the top-notch martial artists. Naturally, the older members were diligent in their training, and Bok Kai and Ko Vuong Kat also advanced to the peak realm. Nine was very satisfied with how things had turned out so smoothly. Both team leaders expressed their gratitude for the enthusiastic guidance. "As the first sword of the leader, I will try my best so that no one can surpass me," said Chin confidently, but some found this statement uncomfortable. In fact, when they first met, Ko Vuong Kat had hoped to be the vanguard for Thien Pham. This led to a discussion among the members, with some suggestions that only Bok Kai and Ho Shuang Ho were worthy of the title. The members of Ko Vuong Kat's team also spoke up to support their leader. Despite everyone's reluctance, Thien Pham intervened to stop the debate. "I'm listening to your opinions. This time, I will establish a clear ranking system. I will select the 6 most powerful individuals, without setting a specific order among them. They will be known as the 6 swordsmen, or alternatively, the 6 swords of the leader. Why divide them into 6 swords? Because when we graduate from the Martial Arts Academy, we will have to confront the 6 major sects. We want our 6 swords to lead the charge against them. That's the purpose." Thien Pham's decision surprised Ko Vuong Kat, who was worried about the outcome. "If you can do it, that's good. If not, just quit," he thought to himself. The main protagonist affirmed that the would change according to talent, and even the position of the martial arts leader would change similarly. Bak Kai was excited about this reasonable approach. Currently, the third phase of the competition is right in front of us. We will simplify the method of selecting the 6 swords. I have requested that those who have reached the peak realm step forward. Those who are weaker can wait for the next round. All 6 of these individuals will form the 6 swords, isn't that correct? As we're considering the arrangement, first sword, Bai Qi, raises his hand to express his opinion. I believe that if the sovereign has chosen the 6 swords, then their ranking must be determined for certain. Vu Tin also agrees with organizing the first sword to the 6th sword according to their abilities. It's a sensible decision. Tian Pham regulates that all must avoid causing harm and exert no more than 3 parts of their strength. Van Q is a war invalid, so she withdrew from this year's selection, which many people regret because they couldn't compete with her. Then Ko Vuong Cat tore off his outer shirt and laughed loudly. When the sisters looked over, they showed displeasure at the solid physique of martial artist 857 and Lu Din. "We're ready," said Lu Din. "Let's get started." "Bak Kai, don't you understand why we're fighting? Why do you have to strip? Stupid monkey. Foolish and ignorant, wanting to show off muscles, huh?" After saying that, the 2 women rushed into the crowd without any fear. Ko Vuong Cat was comfortable. Tai Thatch Kim and Bak Kai remained silent, observing, and seemed to select their opponents. Although I don't know if I'll be at a disadvantage when compared to Van Q's strength, I sincerely hope Bak Kai will provide guidance. If so, I'll let Tai take the lead. If that's the case, Bak, don't regret it. Clenching his fist in hand, martial artist 708 charged straight at the 2 sisters. At that moment, they were cooperating very well to pressure Ko Vuong Cat. But because of excessive eagerness, many unnecessary moves were made. His eyes caught the opening in their techniques, and he immediately launched his attack to avoid being at a disadvantage. The pair was knocked back behind. Vu Tin gritted his teeth, frustrated by this simple mistake. "Why do you keep hindering me, constantly getting in my way? Who do you think should say that? Huh?" Then they turned to fight each other. "Then I'll make you taste failure first." First, Ko Vuong Cat didn't understand why they were fighting him, yet they did. A moment passed, and there was still no clear winner. Pham, standing by, recognized the strength of both. "This is the end, folks. Ho Chong Ho." But the 2 martial artists 20 didn't show any weakness because of their provocative moves. Vu Tin exposed his weakness. As a result, he was immediately knocked down and cried out, "You're making so much noise. Be the 5th disciple then, because you don't know what to do." At this point, Ko Vuong Cat decided to have some fun with Bak Kai and Tai Thatch Kim. "Where did you come from to dare to interfere in my fight? Don't just accidentally interfere like that. It's not as fun as all 3 of us having fun together." Clearly, Ko Vuong Cat is much healthier. However, Bak Kai is not to be underestimated. If you go by the rules, are you serious? If I fought seriously, you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. Try to see if your techniques can match mine. Then Tai Thatch Kim took the opportunity to swallow both. "If you fight to a draw, don't blame me for being cruel. The title of first sword will be mine and not for anyone else." While planning to attack sneakily, Bak Kai and Ko Vuong Cat let each other go to avoid unfair blows. Tai Thatch Kim forgot about Ho Chong Ho, still sitting leisurely, drinking water. "Who do you think you are to think you can take the title of the first sword?" The punch was thrown, but martial artist 708 managed to dodge in time, but only avoided 1 person, while the other 2 took advantage and quickly defeated him. Van Q observed and determined that the 4th sword had been chosen. The Lord now only has 3 people left, still undecided. Ko Vuong Cat decided to have all 3 fight together for fun, to save time, so the 3 of them clashed chaotically. After a while, Ho Chong Ho exhausted, so he gave up. Although confident in his physical fitness, compared to the other 2, he was not worth mentioning. "The title of first sword will belong to me alone, Bak Kai. A fight with this guy is not easy when his arms and legs are much longer than usual. This is true because the demonic style focuses on fists and the upper body. So Bak Kai's techniques are very effective when facing him. He dodged, relied on his body and found weaknesses, then gave a blow. If I attack from below, he will surely be defeated to save time. He continued to charge while the opponent couldn't dodge due to his large body. Now, he couldn't bear it anymore, falling backward without support. If lying sprawled on the ground, it must be admitted that he lost. The members of Bok Kai's team rushed out to celebrate. So the 6 swords have specific positions now. The first sword, Bok Kai. The second sword, Ko Vuong Kat. The third sword, Tai Thatch Kim. The fourth sword, Van Q. The fifth sword, Vu Tin. And the sixth sword, Bone Flower Lake. Although I have my own team now, the most important thing is that I must become stronger so that in the future, no one in our sect can surpass me. Time passed, and the next day was the day of the 3rd grade assessment. The Lord received a letter delivered directly by the great lawmaster. It's discourteous, but may I inquire whether this matter was approved? The day before yesterday, the brain trustee held a consultation on this matter, and until yesterday, the latest church leader approved it, primarily to prevent the leakage of exam questions for the martial artists to know. The masters and the heads of the schools have devised a competition method, and will write a report to send to the brain trustee. These are usually the leaders of the demonic sects. If they want to pass, they need 2 rounds. One for the elders to approve and the last one for the church leader. Of course, if there are any issues, the exam can be changed. The reason for changing the exam method is that this exam is too easy, so there is a need to raise the overall level among the martial artists. Ho Min doesn't understand why the church leader agreed to this because recently, he has always advocated suppressing the 6 major sects. It's hard to guess what the church leader is thinking. Ho Fap remains silent and doesn't express any opinions. He continues to submit another letter. The shopkeeper remains calm and opens it to see what's inside. The content is unclear, but his expression becomes urgent. His hands emit a lot of internal force. Then he burns the letter without leaving a trace. Ho Min understands. Certainly, the 6 major sections are scheming behind this matter. But no matter what they do, they are only tying themselves up. Outside, the martial artists are gathered with all the sect leaders under the jurisdiction of Tianfan. They all seem very confident, showing satisfaction because their efforts for days have not been wasted. But today is strange. It's been 15 minutes and the shopkeeper and the head of the church have not come out to speak. At this point, attention must be shifted to the outside, where many wind heads are leading the prisoners. At first glance, it is known that these people are all serious offenders. Ho Min greeted after 3 days of not seeing each other. First of all, it needs to be announced that there is a change when the exam starts. The martial artists gossip and feel very uneasy. 2 other windheads also bring real weapons to prepare, such as real swords. Isn't it said that this exam will only use wooden swords? To pass this exam, you only need to form a sword formation to defeat the church leaders. But now the method has changed a bit. You still use the sword formation, but you have to use it to defeat the enemies, who are prisoners from the Vo Lam Min Chen sect and the Dark Alliance. The standard to pass the 3rd exam is to use the sword formation to suppress them. If possible, kill them. As I said, this can be considered the first real battle for all, especially those prisoners. If they win, they will be released. But any mistake now will have to be paid with their lives. Pham understands. This is no longer a normal exam. Just by participating, they will enjoy the morning light. The first match will be the match of Team Tuma. 700 designated prisoners have been pulled out, and he quickly released them. The scarf is also lifted because the whole body is suppressed, so now he begins to observe. The shopkeeper declares the start of the competition. 12 martial artists turn to choose the sad prisoner's name. It seems that everyone is afraid, even though I have a sword in my hand to advance to the first battle because I only know that if I break the sword battle, I will be released. But how do I know that the opponent is such children? Tuma Thak speaks loudly, stabilizing the team member's psychology and quickly forming the battle. The sword tam battle has begun. The prisoners realize that even though they are children, they will be serious. They could display such uniformity. Surely they have been trained scientifically and correctly. If not fully explained in the Thup Ma Kiem secret, it is very easy to misunderstand that it is just an offensive book rather than a book teaching swords. At this point, the 12 martial artists are still tirelessly attacking their opponents without any mercy. He also resisted very fiercely. However, the situation was tilting in favor of the martial artists. My muscles, inactive for a long time, were difficult to mobilize. Without hesitation, I continued with the second sword battle. The martial artists moved in the direction. The prisoner kept observing, and he noticed a vulnerability. A sword was aimed straight at a helpless child who didn't defend himself. He grimaced, waiting for death, but the opponent's mind was too confused. Just a little more, and he would have lost his life. Tian Pham realized the sword had stopped. This action made him pay with his own life. The others directly attacked from behind. The prisoner's eyes looked resentful and unwilling. His body collapsed in an instant. It was his first time killing someone, so he lost all his spirit. The people below cheered loudly. Tu Ma Thak found this victory humiliating as they exploited the opponent's mistake. The shopkeeper announced that only 7 out of the 12 passed the third exam. The rest sat down to see if others failed. Due to the incorrect procedure in the sword battle, Namin realized that the exam will only pass through the sword battle of one team but will selectively screen the results of each team member individually. If a mistake occurs, the next match will be the team of the Heavenly Sect. Their opponent was a master from the T sect. Before they could attack, he rushed forward, forcing the martial artists to deploy defense. He was too fast and dangerous. Additionally, he was very cunning, targeting the martial artist's fear of death. Due to this strategy, he successfully broke the sword formation of the Heavenly Sect's leader. He was very courageous and attacked sneakily, not missing any chance. 5 martial artists used the first sword battle to pierce the body of the master from the Dark Faction. The result was only 6 people passed, including the Heavenly Sect's leader, but his disciple, Ta Huan, was eliminated in the 3rd round. This team encountered a master from the Righteous Faction. Quite strange, causing most martial artists to be injured. In the end, only 3 members of this team could advance to the next round. Next, 5 consecutive teams participated in battles. One lost 1-1 against the prisoners. But only one team, the one led by the Heavenly Sect leader, passed all its members. The shopkeeper felt that this year's competition was nothing special. He was sure that the opponents of the Heavenly Sect were very special. Perhaps they had been practicing for too long. Only a few months. Yet that kid had already severed the arms of 2 little sect leaders and destroyed the foundation of another, making him a waste. If not for the pressure from the church leader and the strict regulations in the demonic sect, they would have wanted to dispose of that kid immediately. Therefore, the change in the 3rd exam was likely targeted at Tian Pham himself. Finally, my turn and the team members' test began. Without even starting, I felt frightened looking at the opponent, who seemed worried. Even though I hadn't activated my Dao yet, just looking at his fierce face and his murderous intent made me feel like I was about to die. Regardless, this guy wasn't from the Righteous Faction himself. I felt he was very strange, unlike the prisoners who had been acting like they were searching for someone all along. After completing the Dao challenge, the head of the church transmitted a warning, advising me to be careful. I was very suspicious as to why the exam method changed at the last minute. Indeed, there was a conspiracy. The shopkeeper above had ordered the exam to start after the trustee's gesture, so that guy became motionless. Why? Maybe he wasn't confident enough. So I initiated the battle. As soon as I spoke, he turned to look at me. His eyes became dangerous, and he immediately transmitted, "I've seen you, others." Now, the other martial artists continued according to the plan, but he only started acting now. He handled it very neatly, not revealing any flaws. Mainly, it was all aimed at the weaker martial artists. The sword in his hand emitted a very dangerous aura. The others seized the opportunity and continuously pressured him. The Duong sword was raised high, slashing straight ahead. Both martial artists were unable to resist. Holman was started led as he wondered why. Upon their collision, the swords of the young ones had all broken. Could it be that the martial prowess of this person wasn't at the pinnacle like the White Crane Supreme Master and the king's side stood observing, feeling something was missed? Ho Chin Trung interfered, halting the contest. He ordered Tian Pham to withdraw entirely. The prisoners managed to promptly submit due to a strong youth towards the general's direction. Due to the surprise, he couldn't react in time. How formidable had his martial strength become? Even I, a transcendent supreme master, couldn't block the little one. Indeed, both of us were thrown far away, and some realized that the martial art the prisoner was using was the forbidden blood demon technique, prohibited in the martial world. With the nuisance gone, I'll make minced meat out of you. But as soon as I said that, I noticed the calm demeanor of the protagonist. According to him, His martial realm was only at the pinnacle. Yet he showed no signs of fear. On the contrary, he stared at me intensely. Whose prey do you think you are? Let's clarify a few things. The prisoner shouted, leaping forward to attack, causing concern among his disciples for their master. Due to the effects of the forbidden blood demon technique, his speed was remarkable. You're making too much noise. His voice echoed, causing his opponent to pause momentarily. The protagonist tightened his grip on the sword. With just one stroke, he suffered severe wounds. This sword technique was the first form of the celestial demon sword technique. As he struck down, the prisoners collapsed. Indeed, no one could believe that the heavenly fam could achieve such a feat. Gaia, angry at the unforeseen turn, thought this would pose a challenge. I didn't expect his counterforce to be stronger than I thought, preventing my sword from penetrating fully. This was evident as the opponent slowly stood up, his breath eerie and continuously murmuring, determined to kill the heavenly fam. Not only that, he roared like a wild beast. The scream carried an internal force, making everyone dizzy. Nano detected a powerful growl with a high-frequency pitch that could harm the owner. It activates its emergency defense mechanism, blocking all those sounds, thus unaffected by the lion's roar technique. Let's see if you can survive this move. We can continue later. The antagonist's tone remains furious as he fiercely attacked. Suddenly, the Master Dream appeared, intercepting and causing him to retreat. Even the protagonist was surprised as he couldn't understand where his master came from to defeat the monster. Despite the injuries, he didn't show fear. Hugo Fap always had a smile, missing only a bottle of wine in his hand. Who do you think you are to dare touch my disciple? Just finished with the technique, the antagonist collapsed. However, due to the support of the forbidden blood demon technique, he still has plenty of strength. The protagonist warned the master to be careful as it was dangerous. In any case, I was ordered to spare his life and take him to the dream. Even in the naked eyes, one couldn't see who he was, just gaping in pain. Now, his injuries were severe, with tendons and muscles severed. Finally, he truly collapsed. Teen Fam understood that the master's realm was illustrated, yet twice as powerful as the simulations he trained with, which was an understatement. The prisoner had run out of options, considering self-harm to preserve information, but Hugo Fap didn't allow it. Are you planning to cultivate internal strength for self-harm? You must ask who I am to allow you to do so. As soon as he finished speaking, a master struck directly at his vital point. Caught off guard, his senses swayed, losing consciousness immediately. Sumam voiced his reprimand towards Hugo Fap for acting excessively. Your red-haired disciple has spent so much time on these wretches. If you handle one, don't go overboard. Duong interfered, indicating that he would deal with the situation. Now only did the disciples notice the tavern master's absence, who had been drunk and absent-minded. This displeased Master Sumam. Additionally, he made some incomprehensible gestures, attracting many black sorcerers. It was unclear where they came from. The children speculated and debated who these mysterious figures were. In reality, they were disciples of the heavenly mortals, directly under the command of the Grand Master, all of them supreme masters. Quickly escort all the prisoners using the forbidden blood demon technique, the protagonist ordered. At that moment, he took the opportunity to approach his master and greet him. He was proud of his disciple, but somewhat didn't dissatisfied because he didn't continue to use the feathered saber technique. Knowing that the heavenly fam couldn't explain, he didn't ask further. Lai Ho Men also refrained from asking. Keep your mouth shut. Don't ask about that sword technique anymore, and remember, never reveal it to anyone. Now we're still in the third assessment, so leave quickly, Sumong said, scanning around as if he had many things to say but couldn't at the moment. I wish you success in the exam. Carry on with Duong, he concluded, then quickly flew away using his martial skill. The protagonist knew that if he wanted to meet him again, he had to wait for 4 years after graduation. He promised himself that he would become a junior sect leader. In reality, he just stepped outside the gate of the demonic sect. His eyes scanned around, seeing if anyone was following. The sect leader used the heavenly fam as bait for the trap he laid out, not suspecting that the boy was his own son. Yet he still conceals that sword technique. If I'm not mistaken, that technique seems exactly like the celestial demon sword technique. Even the red-haired one couldn't fully grasp the sect leader's plan. If the heavenly mortal was set as a pawn, then the future of the celestial demon sect would be uncertain. I have to complete the remaining tasks. It turns out that Master Sumong misunderstood. He thought the sect leader had passed on ancestral secrets to the protagonist. At this moment, there were still many thoughts in his head. Unexpectedly, they were openly targeting him in a place like this. Even before the eyes of the Grand Master's disciples, the Tavern Master, they dared to act like this. Perhaps the Master foresees this. If so, am I just a pawn to him? I don't understand why my father could silently watch my mother die for the sake of power. If they want me to be a pawn, then I'll make them regret it. The Tavern Master was silently observing, reflecting on everything. Hang To-Do was banned for the first assessment and imprisoned for a year. As for the leader of the demonic sect, Bakugo, he was sent for reformation for 2 years because he was exposed for poisoning the Heavenly Fam. The sect leader already knew today's plot was orchestrated by the Sword Demon sect. However, everything was manipulated by the sect leader, but they unexpectedly fell into such an obvious trap. So, the Heavenly Fam was in a winning position to compete for the junior sect leader position. Yeah, I still feel uneasy because now it's hard to predict what tactics they'll use next. It's not like before. The feeling of unease, caused by the poisoning of the flower consort, is hard to shake off. Then, the assessment continued. The protagonist team easily passed, as the 7 teams under the control of the sect leader were likely to pass. Contrary to expectations, the other 7 teams faced strict assessment criteria. Because the leaders were skilled in the 7 demon sword technique and proficient in the art of swordsmanship, the contestants couldn't pose a challenge. In the end, out of the 120 who pledged allegiance to the protagonist, only 38 passed the assessment. So, those who pass the selection will become senior martial artists and receive their peer companions along with an additional exquisite weapon. Seeing their peer companions in hand, they felt delighted. Others, however, didn't pay attention to the companions but focused solely on the weapons. After receiving them, they were deeply moved, treating them like treasures. Many were afraid of Koi Bao Boy because she hugged the big saber tenderly, more than a baby. As for those without their own weapons, they will meet Lam Bin to choose one. The Heavenly Fam hesitated, unsure which type would be suitable for the Celestial Demon Sword technique to avoid disappointing everyone. So, the Tavern Master continued to announce information about the next assessment phase, starting from the 4th assessment. It wouldn't be limited by time, but rather by each individual's abilities, allowing them to choose whenever they considered fit. You have 4 years in the Ghostly Tavern to conduct the assessment. Indeed, this time span is quite long, symbolizing the difficulty of the 4th assessment. In essence, it's the easiest assessment because it won't limit any martial arts or weapons. Regardless of the tactics or methods you use, you just need to defeat the martial arts leaders. The crowd knows it's easy, but the martial arts leaders haven't unleashed all their tricks yet. 4 years, who knows what will happen? The important thing here is that all martial artists must reach the peak 2 Vi to have a chance. It also helps to filter out all the weaker martial artists. The Tavern Master reiterated that anyone who fails the test will be immediately expelled from the Ghostly Tavern. Then he wished everyone diligent training and success. The members of the group rushed to thank Heavenly Fam. Some promised to come back to request to become his subordinates after he graduated. They hadn't been together for long, and now they had to part, which was regrettable. While they were exchanging delightful farewells, the leader of Group 2H called out the name of the male lead, recognizing Tuong Mon Lu as the one Kin, the Tavern Master, had broken several ribs of. Vuong Kin quickly reminded him to keep it down, so they wouldn't be expelled. Now, follow me to the main building, the male lead said. Curious about what was going on, he didn't inquire but just followed. Let's go. I'll be back shortly, he said. In Heavenly Fam's mind, he was worried about exhibiting the Celestial Demon Sword technique. However, it seemed unnecessary because Tuong Mon Lu led him to some strange place where he then stopped. There were very few people around, as most martial artists didn't venture here. It seemed like it wasn't the Tavern Master who called him here. So, it's you who called me? Indeed. If you'd said that earlier, it would have been better for me. Are you saying that now you're the 4th assessment? How can that be? I fought with them successfully, but why hasn't there been any progress? On the contrary, my hand is shaking. Heavenly Fam pushed him away forcefully, causing him to lose his balance and step back. I remember he was just at the initial peak, so how could he have increased his internal power so rapidly in 28 days? Quite impressive indeed. Your strength has increased significantly. If that's the case, I won't show any mercy anymore. Please feel free, the male lead said, no longer courteous. The guy became angry for not being respected by the martial artists, so he continued to attack proactively. As his unique martial arts were saber techniques, he used the Supreme Thought Saber technique. Although it wasn't clear what it was, he swung it wildly, disrupting the guy's moves. However, he countered with his saber technique. The situation seemed like they had both reached the pinnacle of martial arts expertise. Just as he was about to flee, the male lead also actively pursued. He continued to use his saber technique in the sixth move, the Spying Fairy's secret power, which was so powerful that it knocked the sword out of the group leader's hand. Now, with nothing in hand, one more move will settle it. Just as he swung down, Chiang Menlu grimaced, loudly admitted defeat. Luckily, he wasn't split in half, as it seemed that would have been too much for him. In his afraid state, he probably would have soiled himself. Thus, I have passed the fourth assessment. Indeed, you have won. Now stop here, the leader said. However, he seemed determined not to let Heavenly Pham pass this test. He had accumulated 10 points of internal power, so he just waited for it to slip up. The main character didn't hesitate anymore, but immediately leaped forward to ambush Ha in anger. However, it wasn't as easy as he thought. He got hit and his body flew into chaos, ending up lying on the ground with a wrinkled face. He couldn't understand why he was caught so easily. He should have concealed his inner strength better, but instead, he hastily raised both hands to defend himself, realizing he was about to speak nonsense in front of Ha. That would be embarrassing. Nano had sensed the danger, so he quickly informed his master. Seeing the intimidating demeanor of the main character, the owner of the place continuously apologized, promising not to gossip next time. He admitted defeat and would come to see the owner previously to discuss matters properly. But Thien Pham showed no mercy. This was a fitting punishment for those who liked to gossip. A while later, the disciplined head was returned to the office. Colleagues shook their heads in disgust. Even the owner of the place exclaimed in resignation. When he left, he walked with both feet, but now he returned carrying a stretcher, causing discomfort for some. They knew he wanted revenge, but they didn't expect it to be this extreme. Lai Ho-men knew about it, but didn't anticipate it happening so soon. Nevertheless, he was quite satisfied with Thien Pham's handling of the situation. He didn't go too far, avoiding causing resentment among other disciplined heads. The headmaster also accepted the matter since he had passed the fourth disciple examination. I can guess he will pass, even though it's just a matter of time. Take Lu Man to White Quan for treatment. Having said that, the owner opened a drawer and handed an object to the main character. As he spoke, he presented it in front of him to explain. Conveniently, he also pulled out the badge from his chest, congratulating him for becoming a martial artist through the earliest disciple examination in history. Just 2 months later. From now on, your title will be Thien Pham Team Leader, accompanied by a dragon mark, along with Lam Bin as a gift. He continued to talk about the fifth disciple examination, which required passing through the Ghost Cave. The minimum condition is to be at the highest level of the Supreme Master Realm. Meanwhile, Trong Min encountered his old acquaintances, wondering why they insisted on leaving when they had just arrived. Thien Pham understood that at that level, one could possibly be among the top 100 strongest individuals currently. There are still 3 more levels to reach. This exam is extremely difficult, with only a few people passing each time. My advice to you is not to rush into decisions due to impulsiveness. Strength is something accumulating gradually, not immediately. Thanking the owner, the disciple promised not to disappoint him. After that, he went to the library of the Devil's Tavern. Finally, he could see the Thon Gok thatched stone tablets on the 3rd and 4th floors. As he registered, he thought about reclaiming his badge, but Thien Pham showed him a new badge, newly obtained through passing the 4th disciple examination. Many other martial artists didn't believe him since it was only morning when he managed to pass. The fastest in the past took years to train themselves. The examiner quickly corrected his attitude, and after completing the procedures, he went up to the 3rd floor. The allowed time here was 4 hours. He spotted some of his peers who were also remembering secret techniques or something similar. Ignoring them, Thien Pham quickly headed to the stone tablets. Compared to the 1st and 2nd floors, this one was much more complicated. He noted a large cut on the top with numerous and deeper sword marks. Nato explained that the retained sword marks here had twice the impact force compared to those on the Thongok thatched stone tablets on the first and second floors. Therefore, he didn't want to experiment at the moment and requested the system to make copies for further cultivation later. As he ascended, the number of ancient manuscripts decreased, but their quality improved significantly. They mainly consist of unique martial arts techniques, not just basic ones, but also many secrets from both orthodox and unorthodox sects. Knowing all of them would be very beneficial when facing their practitioners in the future. However, since there were 6 hours available, the main character decided to start by scanning the compiled martial arts techniques, including 100 volumes of the Heavenly Devil Sect, 83 volumes of orthodox martial arts, and 50 volumes of unorthodox martial arts, totaling 245 volumes. This was too much, so he hesitated whether he could learn them all. He planned to distribute them among his subordinates to learn gradually. When he returned to the dormitory, it was already late, and there was no time left for practicing martial arts. He was surprised to find out that his elder brother had reached the 4th floor of the library. At this point, everyone understood that he had passed the 4th disciple examination. Van Q knew that Kong too was strong, but he didn't expect him to be at that level. It was certain that Thien Pham was the most powerful junior head among the junior heads of the 6 great sects. The main character also announced that from today onwards, he will only sleep for 1 night, starting everyone. If he passes the 4th disciple examination, he will be allocated a private room. So, tomorrow he plans to move there. Van Q was pleased because she also wanted privacy. The next day, at the northern forge of the Devil's Tavern, Thien Pham met the blacksmith to craft the desired weapon. Just when he thought he would soon get his hands on something good, a person came out from inside. Could this be the newly appointed team leader through the 4th disciple examination, as he had been informed? After hearing those words, he turned back to greet. Upon a brief glance, he felt strange. The eyebrows and arms of the person were completely hairless. Was all his hair burnt off while working in front of a furnace? You're looking at me like that, but work turns me into this appearance. Oh well, the man laughed. Enjoying your senses, are you? Let me introduce myself. I am the descendant of Agda. Heard of me yet? I'm not just a famous swordsmith or something. I've read about Agda too forging the Thon Bao Kiem, which was widely known, including the Pure Victory military station, fishing school, and the Shortage Forge. I'm proud of my ancestors' reputation, which has been known for generations. If that's the case, then your traditional forging techniques must be excellent. Looking at the weapon you're carrying, you seem to use both a saber and a sword, right? According to the Devil's Tavern regulations, a team leader is only allowed to forge one type first. The main character was undecided whether to choose a saber or a sword. He recalls his battle with the criminal who used the blood magic technique. At that time, he used the Heavenly Devil Sword technique. Upon careful observation, he noticed cracks, indeed, with the ordinary swords. It was difficult to unleash the Heavenly Devil Sword technique. Learning from experience, Thien Pham decided to prioritize the sword over the saber. Before I take the sword, can I perform the usual swordsmanship? Agda explained that he needed to know the user's strengths and weaknesses. If you put it that way, I understand. Immediately after, the long sword was drawn out of its sheath. The familiar postures and movements of the Heavenly Devil Sword technique made the blacksmith shudder just by looking at them. Indeed, he performed a very impressive display. Simple and harmonious, but powerful. Agda couldn't think of any words to praise. All done then. How is this swordsmanship? It was the first time this person had to carefully consider to comment. Eventually, he had to express his helplessness. I don't know what to say about this swordsmanship. This sword is afraid I can't create it for you, he said. Hearing these words, the main character felt puzzled. Truly impossible to forge. Then, how about my current swordsmanship? Even with a normal sword, it can't withstand it. If you forge me a solid sword, how will it withstand those techniques? At the very least, a special alloy would be needed, sunk in the cold air of the North Sea, stronger than ordinary iron and only granted to sect leaders. Thien Pham understood that the Heavenly Devil Sword technique was very powerful, but he didn't expect it to be to this extent. Seeing the precious treasure of the sword, even a blacksmith like him felt excited. To become a sect leader, one must pass the 5th disciple examination, so for now, he can only forge a saber first. After watching the sword technique performance, Adaham promised that it would take a month to forge it. But as he was in the forge, he also returned to the Devil's Tavern to practice. There were more martial artists here than usual, so surely many had reached the peak realm. He couldn't afford to lose. He must reach the superlative realm, having already obtained the Ma Long pill. So he didn't know whether to take one or both, because whether to take it or not, it's the same anyway. In the end, he decided to take both to be sure. Immediately, his body undergoes a dizzying transformation. I need to circulate the Heavenly Devil Sword technique. Help me absorb the Ma Long pill. Teen Fam inspired Nano. Nano reported the rapid generation and reaction of the medicine along with the energy circulation throughout the body via special acupoints. This helps prevent energy dissipation with a high metabolism rate that could rupture blood vessels. The founder of the Ma Long pill was also the first person to become the leader of a unique demonic sect, Bok Du. He was a master of toxic and herbal medicine, and the process of creating the Ma Long pill was meticulous.